Take a look at this rose. The leaves have disappeared. The stems look dry and lifeless. Weeks have passed without a single new shoot, and you're beginning to wonder if the plant has reached the end of its life. Maybe you've already decided it's beyond saving. You've watered it. You've waited. You've hoped something would change. Yet every day it looks exactly the same. Before you grab the shovel and pull it out, give it one more chance. Here's something many gardeners never realize. A rose that looks dead isn't always a rose that is dead. Roses are remarkably resilient plants. They can shed their leaves after extreme heat, transplant shock, drought, disease, or simple neglect. Sometimes they'll appear completely lifeless for weeks, only to burst back into growth once conditions improve. What usually determines whether that comeback happens is what takes place below the soil. Healthy roots supplied with the right nutrients can completely transform a struggling rose. In this video, I'll share 5 natural fertilizers that encourage stressed roses to recover and produce fresh growth again. Most of these ingredients are inexpensive, easy to find, and you may already have them at home. Some of these methods are commonly used by experienced rose growers, but rarely discussed with beginners. Before we feed anything, though, there's one simple test you should perform. It only takes about 10 seconds, and it tells you whether your rose still has a chance of recovering or whether it's truly beyond saving. Stay with me until the end, because the final fertilizer works differently from all the others. Instead of feeding the plant directly, it improves the soil itself, and that often makes every other treatment more effective. Let's begin with the first and most important step. Step 1. The 10-second scratch test. Before adding fertilizer, you need to know whether the rose is still alive. This is one of the biggest mistakes gardeners make. They assume a leafless plant is dead without checking the stems. Fortunately, there's an easy way to find out. Using your fingernail or a clean, sharp knife, gently scrape away a very thin section of bark from one of the main canes. You don't need to cut deeply. You're only removing the outer layer. Now look at the tissue underneath. If you see fresh green wood that's slightly moist, your rose is still alive. It may be dormant, stressed, or recovering from difficult conditions, but it's absolutely capable of growing again. That's exactly the kind of plant these natural fertilizers can help. If every cane you test reveals dry brown wood all the way through, continue moving lower toward the base before giving up. Quite often, the upper portions die back while the lower section remains perfectly healthy. It's common to find living tissue much closer to the crown than expected. Once you discover the highest point where green wood begins, you've found the section worth saving. Everything above that point has already died. Using clean pruning shears, remove all dead wood just above the living tissue. Make each cut at a slight angle to help water drain away from the wound. Although pruning away large sections may seem harsh, you're actually helping the plant. Dead branches continue drawing resources without contributing anything useful. By removing them, the rose redirects its stored energy into producing healthy new shoots instead of supporting lifeless stems. Once that's finished, your rose is finally ready to receive nutrients. The first natural fertilizer is banana peel tea. Many gardeners have heard the advice to bury banana peels beside their roses. While that method eventually adds nutrients to the soil, it works very slowly. A whole banana peel may take weeks or even months to break down completely. If your rose needs help now, there's a much faster approach. Instead of burying the peels, turn them into a liquid fertilizer. Take 2 or 3 banana peels and chop them into small pieces. Place them in a container with about 1 liter of water. Leave the mixture somewhere warm for 2 or 3 days. During that time, nutrients begin moving from the peels into the water. After soaking, strain out the liquid. What remains is a simple homemade fertilizer that's rich in potassium and immediately available to your plant. Why is potassium so important? Potassium plays a major role in flower production, overall plant strength, and stress recovery. When roses experience difficult conditions, they often stop producing buds because all of their energy is focused on survival. Providing additional potassium helps encourage the plant to return to active growth and eventually bloom again. Pour the banana peel tea around the base of the rose after watering the soil. Applying it to already moist soil allows the roots to absorb nutrients more efficiently. Many gardeners begin noticing swelling buds and stronger growth within days as the plant starts responding. Repeat this treatment about once each week while your rose is recovering. It's inexpensive, easy to make, and much quicker than waiting for buried banana peels to decompose naturally. In the next section, we'll look at one of the best-kept secrets among experienced rose growers: alfalfa tea. Unlike traditional fertilizers, it contains a natural growth stimulant that encourages roses to send up vigorous new canes from the base, often producing some of the healthiest growth you'll see all season. Now that you've confirmed your rose is still alive and given it its first gentle feeding, let's move on to another natural remedy that many experienced rose growers swear by. Unlike ordinary fertilizers that simply supply nutrients, this one also encourages vigorous new growth, which is exactly what a struggling rose needs. The second natural fertilizer is alfalfa tea. If you've spent much time talking with dedicated rose growers, you've probably heard someone mention alfalfa. It's often considered one of the best organic amendments for roses, and for good reason. Besides providing valuable nutrients, alfalfa naturally contains a compound called triacontanol, a plant growth stimulant that encourages stronger stems, healthier foliage, and more vigorous development. Think of it as giving your rose a gentle push in the right direction instead of forcing rapid growth with harsh chemical fertilizers. Making alfalfa tea is surprisingly easy. Fill a bucket with water and add a few handfuls of alfalfa pellets or dried alfalfa meal. Stir everything together and allow it to soak for several days. During this time, the nutrients gradually move into the water, creating a rich liquid feed. Before using it, give the mixture another good stir. Then pour it around the drip line of the rose rather than directly against the stem. This encourages the roots to spread outward while absorbing the nutrients more efficiently. Don't be alarmed if the tea develops a strong earthy smell while it steeps. That's completely normal and simply means the natural decomposition process is taking place. Apply this fertilizer every few weeks during the growing season, and you'll often notice stronger shoots emerging from the base along with healthier, deeper green foliage. Many gardeners consider this one of the most valuable organic feeds for roses because it supports steady, balanced growth instead of producing weak, overly soft stems. The third natural fertilizer is Epsom salt. Unfortunately, it's also one of the most misunderstood. Some gardeners treat it as a cure-all for every rose problem, but that's simply not how it works. Epsom salt isn't a complete fertilizer. It contains magnesium and sulfur, two nutrients that play important roles in healthy plant growth. Magnesium helps roses produce chlorophyll, which is essential for photosynthesis. When magnesium levels are adequate, leaves develop a richer green color, and the plant is better able to convert sunlight into energy. Sulfur contributes to overall plant health and supports the production of proteins that help maintain vigorous growth. Used properly, Epsom salt can be beneficial. The key is moderation. Too much magnesium can interfere with the plant's ability to absorb other nutrients, creating new problems instead of solving old ones. A simple application is all that's needed. Dissolve about 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt in a gallon of water and use it to water the soil around the base of your rose. Another option is sprinkling a small amount around the drip line before watering it into the soil. There's no need to repeat this every week. Applying it once every month or so during active growth is usually more than enough. Think of Epsom salt as a supplement rather than a primary fertilizer. It's something that supports an already healthy feeding program, not something that replaces balanced nutrition. The fourth natural fertilizer is seaweed tea. If your rose has been stressed by heat, drought, transplanting, or disease, seaweed tea can make an excellent addition to your care routine. Unlike fertilizers that focus mainly on nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, seaweed contains a wide range of trace minerals along with naturally occurring plant hormones that encourage healthy root development. Strong roots are the foundation of every healthy rose. Without an active root system, even the best fertilizer can't perform effectively because the plant simply can't absorb nutrients efficiently. Seaweed helps strengthen that foundation. You can purchase liquid seaweed concentrate from most garden centers, or make your own if fresh seaweed is available in your area and it's legal to collect. Always rinse harvested seaweed thoroughly with fresh water before using it to remove excess salt. When using a commercial concentrate, follow the manufacturer's dilution instructions carefully. More isn't necessarily better. Apply the diluted solution around the root zone or use it as a gentle foliar spray during the cooler hours of the morning or evening. Avoid spraying during the hottest part of the day, as strong sunlight can cause moisture to evaporate too quickly. So one thing gardeners often notice after using seaweed regularly is improved resilience. The plants don't just grow faster, they often cope better with heat, dry conditions, and other forms of environmental stress. That extra resilience is especially valuable when you're trying to revive a struggling rose that's already had a difficult season. So far, we've focused on fertilizers that feed the plant directly or stimulate stronger growth. In the final part, we'll cover one more natural ingredient that's often sitting in your kitchen right now. It doesn't simply nourish the rose, it feeds the beneficial microbes living in your soil, helping create an environment where healthy roots can truly thrive. We'll also recap all 5 fertilizers and explain how to use them together without overfeeding your plant. We've covered 4 natural ways to help a struggling rose regain its strength. Now it's time for the final method, and while it doesn't always get as much attention as the others, it can make a remarkable difference over time. Unlike the previous fertilizers, this one isn't just feeding the rose. It's feeding the living ecosystem beneath the soil, and that's where healthy plants truly begin. The 5th natural fertilizer is unsulfured molasses. Molasses may seem like an unusual ingredient to use in the garden, but many organic growers have relied on it for years. The secret isn't that molasses directly feeds your rose with large amounts of nutrients. Instead, it supplies natural sugars that nourish the beneficial microorganisms living in the soil. Healthy soil is full of bacteria, fungi, and other tiny organisms that break down organic matter and help convert nutrients into forms that plant roots can absorb more easily. When those microorganisms thrive, your rose often benefits as well. Think of molasses as food for your soil rather than food for your plant. To make a simple soil tonic, dissolve 1 or 2 tablespoons of unsulfured molasses in a gallon of water. Stir until it's completely mixed, then apply the solution around the base of the rose. Always use unsulfured molasses, as it's the preferred option for gardening. You don't need to use this treatment frequently. Once every 3 to 4 weeks during the growing season is usually enough to support healthy microbial activity. As the soil becomes more biologically active, nutrients from compost and other organic fertilizers become more available to the plant. It's one of those improvements that happens quietly below the surface, but often leads to stronger, healthier growth above ground. A few important tips before you feed. Before applying any fertilizer, whether homemade or store-bought, there are a few simple guidelines worth remembering. First, never fertilize extremely dry soil. If the ground is dry, water your rose thoroughly first. Moist soil helps nutrients move evenly through the root zone and reduces the chance of stressing the roots. Second, remember that more fertilizer doesn't always mean better results. Overfeeding encourages soft, weak growth that can be more susceptible to pests and disease. A struggling rose needs steady recovery, not an overload of nutrients. Finally, be patient. Natural fertilizers work gradually. They support healthy growth over time rather than producing instant overnight changes. Sometimes the first signs of recovery are surprisingly subtle. You may notice swelling buds, brighter green stems, or tiny new shoots beginning to emerge from the base of the plant. Those small changes are often the first indication that your rose is rebuilding its strength. Given a little more time, those shoots develop into vigorous canes capable of producing healthy foliage and beautiful blooms. Let's review all 5 natural fertilizers. Here's a quick recap of everything we've covered. First, perform the scratch test to make sure your rose is still alive before adding any fertilizer. If green tissue is hiding beneath the bark, your plant still has an excellent chance of recovering. Next, encourage flowering and general recovery with banana peel tea, a simple homemade source of potassium that's much faster than burying banana peels in the soil. Then strengthen new growth with alfalfa tea, which not only provides nutrients, but also contains natural compounds that stimulate vigorous development. Support healthy foliage using Epsom salt in moderation. Its magnesium content can improve chlorophyll production and overall plant performance when used correctly. Help stressed roots recover with seaweed tea, supplying valuable trace minerals and natural growth compounds that encourage stronger root systems and improved resilience. Finally, improve the soil itself by applying unsulfured molasses, which feeds beneficial microorganisms that help unlock nutrients already present in the ground. Each of these natural treatments plays a different role. When combined with proper watering, sunlight, pruning, and healthy soil, they create the conditions your rose needs to recover and thrive. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make is assuming that a struggling rose has reached the end of its life. In many cases, that's simply not true. Roses are incredibly resilient plants. Given the right care, many seemingly lifeless bushes can surprise you by sending out vigorous new shoots weeks after they appeared completely dormant. Sometimes all they need is healthy roots, a little patience, and the right support. So before you remove that struggling rose from your garden, take a few minutes to inspect it carefully. Perform the scratch test. Prune away any dead wood. Feed it gently with one or more of these natural fertilizers. Then give it time to respond. You may be amazed by the transformation that follows. If you found this guide helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel for more practical gardening tips that actually work in real gardens. And now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever brought a rose back from the brink? Which natural fertilizer has given you the best results? Share your experience in the comments below. Your advice could help another gardener save a favorite rose instead of giving up on it too soon. Thanks for watching, and I hope your garden rewards you with stronger plants, healthier blooms, and plenty of beautiful roses throughout the season. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.